So you do support that 21-point plan then?
I do want this war to end.
Yeah.
And I do hope that, but I mean, we'll see how that actually works out. But for me, like I do not think it's entirely appropriate to recognize a two-state solution. For me, my non-starter is send all those hostages home. And now first we're going to agree, we're going to disarm. How can you pretend that you're going to have any real peace in the region if Hamas is about to occupy? It's just absurd at this point.
Is the war in Gaza going to be over very soon? Take a look at this clip over here with John Fetterman speaking on Fox News. And in the course of this interview, he talks about the new 21-point plan that's being proposed by President Trump, and he's discussing with Prime Minister Netanyahu, I believe, as we speak. So let's watch this clip together and then talk about it. But first, hit that subscribe button over there in the corner. We'd love to stay in touch. Check this out.
United Nations on Friday, Netanyahu told the General Assembly Hamas should not be rewarded for their terrorist attack that killed 1,200 people in Israel.
What you're doing is giving the ultimate reward to intolerant fanatics who perpetrated and supported the October 7th massacre. Giving the Palestinians a state 1 mile from Jerusalem after October 7th is like giving Al-Qaeda a state 1 mile from New York City after September 11th. This is sheer madness. It's insane, and we won't do it.
Joining me now in the Sunday Morning Futures exclusive is Senator John Fetterman. Senator, it's great to have you this morning. Thank you so much for being here. Do you think there's a deal here? What is your reaction to all that has played out?
I mean, I've read 21 points, and now overall, I've been very pleased the way the president has backed Israel. I mean, as I do. I think I was the only Democrat that supported the Iranian nuclear facilities, and that's why I'm always willing to stand with the democratically elected leader of Israel. And I do think it's astonishing. You have our allies are going to recognize Palestine when you have human beings held underground, tortured and starved, going on 2 years. And that is, and absolutely it's a reward for Hamas. That's going to be their narrative. They're going to claim that's why we did 10/7, that birthed our nation, and you can't ever give that to them. And I strongly reject any idea, especially now to talk about that when you have human beings. I mean, they are normalizing keeping human beings underground for 2 years and forcing them to dug their own graves. And now it's like, hey, let's give them a nation.
Yeah, and that's why really I wanted to talk to you about this, because you've been so practical on this issue. And you've been talking about the things that our audience cares about so much. So in terms of this deal, UN delegates walked out of the Netanyahu address on Friday in New York at the UN General Assembly. Why is there so much upset against Netanyahu?
Yeah, I watched that. And if you're leaving with Iran at the same time, really look at yourself. And it's like, what kinds of values do you have? If you're going to walk out, on a speech of the leader of, and you are standing with Iran, one of the world's largest terrorism underwriter, what they've done, they've financed what Hamas and Hezbollah and those things. And now look who you're walking out with. And now that's why I strongly reject that in the strongest terms. And I absolutely support the things what Israel has done. And I actually, even referencing the beepers, Hezbollah did get the message, just like the prime minister said. That's entirely appropriate. And now, why aren't we reminding Hamas could end this war? They could have ended this at any point to send all of the hostages home and disarm. I mean, that's how the way the wars work. Right. It's like if you start a war and you're forced to submit or just engage this war. And that's what Israel's forced to do that, and why I support what they continue to do in Gaza City.
So you do support that 21-point plan then?
I mean, I do want this war to end. Yeah. And I do hope that, but I mean, we'll see how that actually works out. But for me, like, I do not think it's entirely appropriate to recognize a two-state solution. For me, my non-starter is send all those hostages home. And now first we're going to agree, we're going to disarm. How can you pretend that you're going to have any real peace in the region if Hamas is about to occupy? it's just absurd at this point. I know that's put me kinds of as an outlier within the Democratic Party, but what history demonstrates is if you're willing to turn your back on the Jewish community, and now with Israel, I refuse to do that. And I do hope it does end. And I have watched and I have looked over the 21-point plan, and I agree with many of it. But for me, I'm going to stand with Israel through that. Ultimately, what's the right thing for Israel?
The point is you don't want to reward Hamas after what Hamas did, and I think that's what you're saying here in terms of a
Absolutely.
Palestinian state.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Hamas's point. They're going to claim, well, this is why that's all of this was over trying to create a new state. That's the narrative, and we can't give that to them because they have to be pushed into submission and disarm. And now, why has the media normalized, keeping hostages for 2 years and torturing people that way?
Unbelievable. How horrible.
What can we say? The guy talks sense. He's 100% right when he says that giving the Palestinians a state at this point in time would give them a pat on the back and say, oh, that's the whole reason that we did the October 7th to begin with. That's our Independence Day. That was the beginning of our Independence Day. And it justifies the entire thing. It's a reward for terrorism. Prime Minister Netanyahu is right, and John Fetterman is right in invalidating that as well. As far as all of these leaders out there that are walking out from the UN Assembly and the other Western leaders that are making overtures for a Palestinian state, mostly because of their own domestic issues, they have a lot of radicals that they've let in from poor immigration policies, now have to kind of kowtow to them. But it's not an option. It shouldn't be an option, a Palestinian state at this point in time. Again, without the who and without the where, we don't know where that Palestinian state would be, and we don't know who would be running it, because the only ones involved in Palestinian leadership right now are radicals. Even if it's not Hamas. Hamas is one group of radicals. The more moderate, right, as we've discussed many times here, the more moderate group under Mahmoud Abbas still pays pay for slay. And if there's someone from the West Bank, the so-called West Bank, does terrorist activities against Israelis, the family is compensated for that. That's not a peace partner. That's not a state you want to live next to. And so it's a non-starter. It's also a non-starter when you're still holding hostages. It's also a non-starter when there is no one in a government capacity that is an option to make any sort of deal with at this moment in time. So the idea of even discussing a two-state is really just nonsense, and it's such disconnected Western political nonsense at this point in time. It's unfortunate, but that is the case. He is correct as well that this war needs to end. We'll see what happens with this 21-point deal. Prime Minister Netanyahu and President Trump are supposed to be speaking as we speak, and we'll see what comes out from it. We'll see if Hamas agrees to it. We shall see. But there is potential that this war could be ending very soon, and that would be perhaps a good start to a future to come. If you like this content overall, hit that subscribe button over there in the corner. We'd love to stay in touch. Take care.